just a second because it really helps describe really the overall Sage construction and real estate portfolio and where Construction Project Center fits in. So thanks a lot, Tim, for the introduction there. And as you mentioned, I used to work at Sage, and this is actually my first webinar since joining the Alliance team. Been working with our existing customer base, and excited to be presenting today to the group. So a look at the overall Sage construction and real estate portfolio. Really at the core of this diagram, you can see our accounting packages is Sage 100 Contractor and Sage 300 Construction and Real Estate. And now those are on-premise systems, meaning that you install the application on the server on your users' computers, and they log in through that way. Now with Sage Construction Project Center, it's a little bit different. It's all cloud-based. So there's nothing to install on your users' computers. Really, you can spin them up directly just with an email address. So anybody who has access to the internet and an email address that you give permission to can access your software without having to install anything. Now, the only thing that gets installed is a little connector on your server that allows Construction Project Center to actually communicate and integrate bidirectionally with Sage 300 Construction and Real Estate. Currently, that integration is only for Sage 300. Sage 100 Contractor is going to be happening sometime in 2018. So before we jump into the software here, what are some of the solution benefits with using something like Construction Project Center? Well, you have timely, convenient, and mobile access to a variety of project documentation. As I mentioned, anyone who has an internet access is able to access Construction Project Center on our website. But additionally, there's a mobile application that allows you to access your document library, do daily field reports directly in the field. And so that allows you to take those documents in an offline mode. So if your job site doesn't have internet access or you're down in the basement somewhere, you can pull those documents offline and continue to access those and then just resync once you get back into an internet connection. Becoming more organized and productive. And oftentimes before companies move to a system like Project Center, different project managers have lots of different logs that they're keeping in Excel, lots of different Microsoft Word documents, sending things out through Microsoft Outlook. Within Project Center, you have unlimited projects, so all of your projects can live directly in Project Center. And everyone can use our integrated logging functionality, sending documents directly out of the system and receiving replies. So minimizing the risk of litigation there, at all points, we want to avoid disputes that might arise in construction, and we can do that with good communication, good documentation. But in the rare case that things do happen, we have a full audit history within Construction Project Center. So if you give access to your subcontractors to the drawings, you can log and see who has accessed those drawings and a full audit history of all the actions that take place on the site. Really powerful tool. You're probably not going to use it every day within the software, but it sure is nice to have available to you. Improving collaboration. So as I mentioned, you can have external collaborators who join you in the system. And that can be on a per project basis. Some projects might have a really collaborative team and others are more closed off. And that's okay. We support all kinds of workflows in here. The licensing structure on Project Center allows for unlimited external collaborators. And really you only pay for the amount of concurrent seats that your company is using. And through all that, we're hoping you can gain a competitive edge. Nice professional templates that get sent out, and just really staying organized. It's so important in this day and age. There's so much going on for project teams out there, and having one place that they can come is a really important solution. So as I mentioned, we have external collaborators that can come into the system. So who are some of these users? Well, if you want to give access to your owner, you can, and everyone is controlled on a permissions basis. So no one is going to be seeing anything that you don't want them to see. Your general contractor, your CM at the home office. So we have tools for your home office folks. We also have, as I mentioned, tools for your field teams, superintendents, project managers, foremen. That's, they can access the full-blown website, or they can use our iPad or Android app. Subcontractors, vendors, material suppliers, they can be getting in and entering their RFIs to you as a general contractor, or they can so RFIs to the general contractor, access drawings, or Heck, they could even do daily field reports for you at the job and still have access to those on their own. Additional users, your design team you could get access to, and that could be architect, consultants, it could be permitting entities, anybody that needs to have access into the system. So what kinds of information are we housing within Project Center? The four main workhorses within the business, drawing, specifications, RFIs, submittals. It'd be hard to call ourselves a project management system if we didn't have really good workflows around that kind of documentation. Additionally, though, meeting minutes, daily logs, punch lists, cost management, and I can get into additional functionality as well. It's a really robust platform that has, just about all the documents you really need for your construction project management. So during that project life cycle, everything can really live in Project Center. So I'll say that most of our customers who sign up for Project Center are in the general contractor space. We do have some specialty trades who are customers as well, but for the purposes of my discussion here today, I'm going to be focusing typically on a general contractor type of role. I'd be happy to talk to anyone if your use case falls outside of that as well, though. But for a typical project, if you're the general contractor, oftentimes you have subcontractors. I guess just about all times in these days, you would have subcontractors working underneath you, and you might have some self-perform entities as well. And then you have a contract with the owner has with the architect, and then there's this kind of dash line here between GC and the architect. And then the architect also has their sub-consultants underneath them. Now, within Project Center, we want to maintain the kind of formal communication that follows your contract lines. So we never want to have the concrete sub talking directly to the structural engineer. We want this to follow through the normal chain of command, because as a general contractor, one of the most important things for you to do is to manage the information flow. And within Project Center, you have this one single source of truth where people are able to access that project information, and you can always know where everything is through our reporting capabilities. So some of the Sage Construction Project Center workflows that we have, as I said, it's through the duration of a project. So all the way from early on in the bid management phases, we have an integrated invitation to bid tracker, not necessarily a buyout tool, but it will send out email notifications and let you know who is planning on bidding on your project. From there, moving from the bid phase into project management. So with our RFIs, submittals, other documents, cost management, this is where our strongest integration is back into Sage 300 with your cost information. Full document management with our field app, and then finally a couple different options for closeout. One of the features we offer is if you've been using Sage Construction Project Center to manage your project, at the end of the day, you can just request a closeout package that has all of your document issues, all your meeting minutes, all your RFIs, really anything that you want to have in that closeout package, you can specify at that point. So with that, let's open up the software and take a look. So I am just going to launch a web browser here. And today I'm using Google Chrome, but we do support other web browsers as well. And so I'm just signing in with my username, cmcdermott@alliancesg.com. There's my password. If I do forget it, there's a forgot password option right there. So when I log in, you're going to see that I have access to a lot of different areas within the software. And that's because I am added as an administrator in the system. So as an administrator, I have access to things like our project setup and our cost management information. But for instance, if you gave access to a subcontractor to an owner, you can control what they're going to see in your system. I mean, it's a super important part of this. And as part of my background, I've done a lot of software implementation at other firms, general contractors in the realm of BIM and scheduling, and also project management systems. And I'll say that within Project Center, I think the permission capabilities are some of the robust that I've seen. You can control down to a folder level pretty much across the board in what a user can see. So some overall navigation here. Over on the left-hand side is my navigation pane. And we'll get into some more of these, as we progress through today, but you can set up your dashboards and your reports, bid packages. You have a task log so that for your user, you can log in and see across projects. If you're working on multiple projects, items that are at your attention. And this holds true for any of the users in the system. So if an architect has an RFI under their name, when they log into the Construction Project Center, they can click this My Tasks and see what they have. Down here, is a list of my favorite projects. So within the system, as I mentioned, you get your username, and that gets you access into the system. Now, when you sign up for Project Center, you're going to specify who at your organization is your overall org admin. And that's the user who is going to start adding additional users to your account and adding these projects. And then at the project level, you're going to go ahead and assign view permissions to your project team members. And so your initial project manager might be that project admin, and then they're going to go ahead and add all their subcontractor trades and architects into the system. From an overall organization standpoint, you can set up different regions here. So within my demo data here, you'll see that I have several different offices set up. So my Alliance Solutions Group, California, Florida, and then Andrea's office just have some additional groups down there. And within these areas, if I wanted to add something to my favorites list, if just at this basic headquarters, if I just click that little star, that's going to add it up into my favorites. But as I go to add new projects, I want to talk about that just a little bit, because it is a important part of every project is adding it into the system. And the first thing to point out is that we have the ability to create a project from a template. And I really like this because spinning up a new job, it's time consuming, and there's a lot of things that you have to do when you spin up a new job. So, outside of just entering into the project management system, you need to negotiate all your new contracts. You need to make sure your buyout's going correctly. So as much as possible, we want to save time and make it easy for you and your project teams as they spin up new jobs. So creating templates. So if you have a standard template for most of your jobs that you do, you can start with that. But you can also have like a new construction. You could have an interior fit out. Maybe you have a certain client that you do repeat work, and all of their projects are pretty similar. I know at my previous company, sometimes we had on-call contracts with people where they'd spin up 100 new jobs a year, something along those lines. You could add all those in as templates. And the beauty part is that you can manage this all within your company. You're not needing to rely on our Sage resources or consultants to do that. We're absolutely happy to help, but at the end of the day, this software is 99% self-administered. So it's pretty simple to add a new job. You just enter your project name, your project number. It can be the same or different than your job number in Sage 300. That actually gets set at a different point in the project integration to say what job does this match to in Sage. And this would be, it's additional information that you enter. So you enter it in, you create the job in Sage 300 and you create the job here. You can integrate your address book though, so that your contact listing, when you start a new Sage Construction Project Center subscription, you can bring in your current address book contacts into SCPC, but then also specify which companies you want to bring in, because maybe you have certain vendors that they don't need to have access into the system, or you don't need to add them as users. Enter your project zip code down here, and that's going to be what pulls in weather report information on your daily field reports, project description overall, and then a project logo. When you select your project logo, that's going to be populating all the reports that you have on that job. Let's go ahead and cancel out of here. All right, so here I'm just going to step into my Northwest Food Warehouse, and that's where I'm going to step through the software. I can close my navigation bar so I don't need to see that. Up at the top, just start with some general project setup. Each project can have its own defaults, so you can say what is the default response time for an RFI? Who's the main contact over at the architect who should be receiving those RFIs? How much time on a submittal? What's my default markup on a change order? All of those things can happen in a project default area. Project members is where we give new folks access into the system and then control the visibility of what they can see. List management and advanced list management. Here, this is doing things like adding custom statuses for RFIs. I think out the gate we have open, closed, and pending. But if you wanted to have some additional RFI statuses, you can add those in as well. Maybe you just wanted to add the custom one that says like a hot RFI status that really is expedited, and you want to be able to track that separately on your reports. You could add that here in the list management section, and other kinds of things like that that allow you to get creative with how you use the system. We have an events and messages, so a cross-project calendar if you wanted to add events and messages here. and a list of tasks that I was mentioning. And here's where I'm actually going to jump into the software a little bit more, is in our cost management area. So across our cost integration, we start at the beginning of the job with our estimate or budget in Sage 300. We go into our contract info. So we're going to read your owner schedule of values into contract info, and then commitment info. Commitments is where we can actually create commitments directly in Construction Project Center and sync those back into Sage 300 once they've been approved. Have some summary info here and our forecasting and variance. Important thing to recognize is that we do handle change orders both on the owner side and on the commitment side of things, so that you can be creating all your commitments or subcontracts in Project Center, and then managing all your change orders throughout that process as you're going back and forth and in negotiations with your owners to make sure you're getting good resolution on those change orders. So real quick, I'll just step into my summary information, show you the kinds of cost information that we have within the software. And so original, all pending changes, what's been approved in accounting, what's our total with approved change orders. And we have across all of our different labor categories here, and forecast total to date. Have our job to date % on our estimate, and what kind of pending contract events. So how many change orders do we have out? How many change order requests? How many pending change orders do we have? So a lot of good information here, kind of at a high level glance for someone who might be at the operations level or the project manager on the job. Going into the estimate info, this is where we're going to pull in our budget information from Sage 300. And all right, I'm going to give that just a second to refresh. I'm not sure exactly what's happening, but I'll hop into our project management down here. So within, oh, here we go. Here's my cost management information. This is on commitments. So here I can see a list of all of the commitments that I've issued on the job. You can have multiple commitments going out to different subcontractors. So when I want to go spin up a new commitment, enter that new commitment here. I can enter a custom number on that. We select from our vendor list who is on that job. So if I was just to go with, again, my A1 electric, I'll call that 16-002. We can say, is this going to be a purchase order? Is this something that we're going to release to accounting yet? Typically that would happen once you're at the end of the process and you've added all your cost line items and are happy with everything. So here's our retainage that we're going to enter, standard 10%. Contract type, going to be lump sum here, and you can add your additional description, scope, exclusions and inclusions. You can make these a little bit bigger if you want, or copy and paste from another template. And here I'll just hit save changes at that point. And as we go down through this list, here's where we actually add our commitment cost codes into the system. So at this point, if we want to add an extra, if your company uses extras within 300, we do support all that functionality. Show a list of our standard cost codes. And if we're going to electric, this is my electrical sub. And here we're going to list them as a cost code category on subcontract. So maybe we have one line item, which is main building, and cost code amount is going to be 75,000. If you wanted to add an additional line item, you could go through that process. When I go ahead and hit save, that information is going to get saved into the system. And when I print my report, I could print this with attachments if I wanted to add additional exhibits to this, but I'll just show you what our standard kind of out-of-the-box report looks like. And so this would be my subcontract agreement that gets printed out. One thing to note is that all of our reports are crystal reports, so that they can be modified and updated if you want to customize this to make it look exactly like the reports that you use today in whatever system that is. But then another thing is that these reports can all be customized on a per project basis. Some other systems out there, they make you customize for all projects across the board, and that doesn't always work if you're on some joint venture projects or you're doing federal contracting work. There's just different requirements that are required there. So within Project Center, you can customize your projects, your reports on a per project basis. So there's that standard subcontract agreement. All this information is pulling from our system, and there's that 75,000 line item with the job and cost code that we have, with the ability for your company to sign and then also get a signature there from the subcontractor who you're pushing that subcontract agreement to. Okay, so I'll come back into my home, see if my contract info is pulling up. See, there it goes. It's super quick. And that's what I'm usually expecting. And this is showing me all of my schedule of values line items that I have within my Sage 300 contract with my owner. So I can see my original contract, pending change orders, accounting approved total contract, what we've billed to date, and then what's the balance of retainage that I'm holding on to. We can print PDFs of this, or you can also export a lot of our cost screens out to Excel. So if you do want to make modifications to that, run some pivot tables, I know that's often what I like to do with some of this data, just to finesse it a little bit and get some additional information. It's really easy to export to Excel at any given time. What I want to do now is just jump in real quick to create an RFI, because it's a standard way within our project management process. Several different areas that we go to within project management. This is the first one I'll step into, but also want to mention our transmittals. That we've been building projects for a long time using Sage software, and now we have a lot of electronic tools, but at the end of the day, a lot of the processes that we go through have been around for a long time, and that concept of a transmittal, of formal communication being sent between two companies, is really core and fundamental to managing your risk on a job. So within your transmittal process, anytime something gets transmitted in the system where we send email notifications out, it's going to create a transmittal to say that an RFI got sent over, or a change order got sent out to someone for review, or submittals went to someone. So you have a full transmittal register that gets automatically created and populated just through the normal use of the system. Expediting logs, that's a kind of an advanced feature that's hard to cover on an initial session like this, but from a high level, it allows you to import your submittals from an Excel list. And I know back when I was a project engineer, that would be a huge time saver for me. So rather than having to go in and physically create everything, if I could just comb through my spec book, list out all the submittals that I need, I can put them into packages. So within my masonry submittal, my division 4, I might be able to break that up into several detail items, like could be masonry samples, could be grout color charts, could be calculations, could be shop drawings, all as part of that one package. So all of those line items can get imported from an Excel list within using Project Center. Open issues, these are a little bit different. These are a customized issue that you can use to really track anything from, hey, you need some more documentation, to one of your employees damaged on the job, or damaged some existing installation on the job, or quality tracking outside of a standard punch list. Just anything that you want to add can go in here to any of your subcontractors on this list, and then you can have an open log, and that can be across your company too. So if you have multiple project engineers, project managers, project administrators on your job, you can track one central list for all the open issues that you have. Full meeting minute tracking, so you can run your meetings directly out of Project Center. So that's your OAC meeting that's happening weekly, bi-weekly, your subcontractor, even your staff meetings if you wanted to. You could do all that directly here within Construction Project Center. Our submittals, and then RFIs is a real nice place to start, because RFIs are so fundamental to so many projects out there that you ask a question and you get clarification, and that clarification is really an addition to your contract. So having good workflows around that is really important. So jumping in here, our main subfolder that we have is my construction RFIs. But another thing that I have set up on this demo set is individual folders for my subcontractors. If they wanted to get in, for instance, my concrete subcontractor can have his own RFI listing. So his RFI 1, his RFI 2. But the thing that they can do is not necessarily send this over to the architect, but send it to the general contractor for their review. And you can see here on this one, the concrete RFI 01 translates to the construction RFI 003. And from there, you can, if you come in just as through a hyperlink, I can see who that RFI got created by, who it's going to, and we can make modifications to their initial question and then send that over to our design team. So if I go into this is my overall contract RFIs. If I want to add a new one, just go up to my ribbon interface at the very top and enters me up with my really easy entry screen here. If I need to add any CCs to the process, can do that. Can also flag this for a potential change order. So I'm just going to do that right here, that saying, hey, this is a potential change order. This is something I want to come back to and actually cost out at some point. But for the time being, I just want to get this RFI sent out so we can get answer to our question. And maybe this is going to be something like wall dimensions at main corridor. Or here, I'll give an actual example. So this might be the restroom dimensions to accommodate ADA. Okay, spelling is not right. Well, that might happen if you're the general contractor that you're going through the process and you find out, hey, the bathroom stalls aren't in such a way that they meet ADA compliance. So we need to figure out how we need to make that modification. So we can say, what's the reason on that? Clarification, drawing discrepancies. This is more like a please advise kind of a thing. Action requested is directed, date submitted. This actually is going to get filled in once I hit my transmit button to send out my RFI. So that's going from the default, it's going to on the default line there. Enter our question. Please confirm we can move per the attached sketch. Okay, so then I would come down here and I can actually just do a drag and drop file upload into my system and do something like, you could drag and drop multiple attachments and we hit upload files. And if I wanted to name my files at that point, I can come down here and add a description into those files. But then just going to go ahead and hit transmit on this RFI. At that point, your architect would receive an email notification, and they could actually download that PDF, or they could respond directly in the system. And then you can see the back and forth communication within a given RFI. Here you can see that whole log is really self-maintained at that point. And so real quickly, if you want to do a filter on just to only show your open RFIs, you can do that. Or you can do a search for the name and the title. So if you just wanted to hit light, it's going to filter just your RFI list to that given RFI. And that's similar across the board for all of our screens here like this. Our logs are searchable, sortable to allow you to get to the information that you need to see. So here I can follow my breadcrumb trail back up to the top. And what I want to show is the ability to send a report on that same RFI listing. So here, I want to show my grids. I can show a forwarding report to see which RFIs have been forwarded. Do I want portrait or landscape? Typically going to go in landscape actually this one can do portrait. What's its status? Do we want to go closed, open, pending, or any of our other statuses that we want to see? Filter by subcontractor or division that we're going for. I can download a report of this in an Excel format as well, several places throughout the system. Once I hit print, they're just going to generate that standard RFI list. So there's my RFI log, who's responsible, who's submitted by, what's its due date, what's its status. And so along those lines, the other thing I want to show is as we set up those reports in the beginning of the project, a lot of times there's standard days where those reports are going to end up going out. So I can set up a new schedule. And so for which project do I want to do this, my Northwest Food Warehouse, for my RFIs, I actually want to schedule this out. And through the same options that I have available, here I can say, when do I want to send my reports out? If I really wanted to be everybody's favorite person, I could send them out at midnight every day, so that they're getting a little email alert on their smartphone sitting next to their bed every day, daily at midnight. You know, more reasonable would be something, you know, like 8 a.m. on Tuesdays or Thursdays. Yeah, Tuesdays and Thursdays, or maybe 5:30 p.m. So at the end of the day, I want this to go out on Tuesday afternoons and Thursdays because my OAC meeting is happening on Wednesday. So who do I want to send this out to? How many weeks do I want to go? Or how long is my end date going to be? So you can schedule out these reports at the beginning of the job. You know, anything that you can do to save time when you're in the middle of a project, I know is super important. So having some of these time-saving things is just one less thing that you need to think about, so you can, you know, finish what you need to get done at the end of the day and ultimately spend more time with your family and the people that you care about. So all that stuff is super important, and that's what we try to do within Project Center. There's a lot more than I can show in any one, you know, introduction, and I also don't want to overwhelm folks. So I think that's a kind of a good place to stop for today. A couple of things that I do want to just bring in before we open it up for question and answer is that we do have a full online help access. So, you know, fully written out documentation for everything. So if I do want some more information on how to handle submittals, can come in here, you know, overall, what's a submittal versus creating a submittal package, creating a submittal item, how do I return a submittal item, if I'm doing it collaboratively or if I'm not doing it collaboratively with my architect not logging into the system. And the other thing that I really like is our video learning page. And I mean, to be honest, this has been a huge way that I've gotten up to speed with the software, are these brief 2- and 3-minute YouTube videos, anything from creating users, creating issues, processing commitment change orders. All aspects are covered here within our video learning area, and we're constantly adding things to it. Sage has also been putting on some bi-weekly webinars. So to talk through some things and best practices, not necessarily just how to do it in the software, but how to best structure it and how to think through the entire workflow process. So issues and punch lists, setting up your project templates, how do you do meeting minutes? You know, just real core fundamental things that can really be nice refreshers as you come back. With that, I'm just gonna show one more screen here. So again, risk management, collaboration, keeping everything documented, all organized in one place, and then finally flowing into that project closeout at the end of the day if you've been using Project Center to manage your jobs. Do you want to talk just a little bit about pricing because it functions slightly different than some of the rest of the core accounting modules, but it's an annual subscription on your pricing. And it's sold in bands of 5 users for the concurrent users within your company. So the entry point into Project Center is get a subscription for 5 users, and you can have unlimited access, unlimited number of users, but only 5 logged in at a given time. And from there, it goes up 5, 10, 15, 20. I think it jumps to 30 after that. But other things to note, you have free unlimited projects. You know, we're not going to charge you on a per project basis. Anytime you spin something up, you have a full go on that. Spin up as many new jobs as you want, and unlimited storage within those jobs. In this day and age, our storage space is not terribly expensive for us, so we're going to give you unlimited storage capabilities. And if you want to upload a 100 megabyte, 200 megabyte PDF full of all your drawings, absolutely, our system's going to be able to handle that for you. And free unlimited external collaborators. So those subcontractors and architects that we want to encourage them to get access into your project. So sometimes a an owner is going to specify in their contract terms that you need to provide a collaboration website. And we've had that happen a couple times for us. So at the end of the day, we can check off all those boxes for what you need to do to have this website hosted of all the project information. If you'd like some more information, my contact information is here, cmcdermott@alliance-sg.com, or you can always give us a call at our main number, 888-559-9540. With that, Tim, do we have any questions coming in from our